We are going to get underway because I'm fairly sure Tom Morgan has an 8:30 bedtime, and we'll make sure and get you home plenty of time. Welcome to the 2020 presentation of the Gerald Turley Memorial Award. That's right, 2020. So for the next hour, we're going to pretend it's 2020, but without the COVID-19. Good evening, I'm John Goldsmith, your MC for the evening. Created in 1994 to honor an outstanding Greenville citizen, the Gerald Turley Memorial Award is given to someone who has demonstrated personal sacrifice, involvement, innovation, and community leadership to promote the success of Greenville. The honoree is selected by a committee of the Greenville Chamber of Commerce. The award is named for Gerald Turley, a former Greenville mayor and local businessman who embodied the characteristics that each winner embodies as well. It's my pleasure at this time to introduce our president of the Greenville Chamber of Commerce, Noel Harcher.
Hello. On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, I would like to welcome all of you and thank you all for coming. It is so nice to see you here to honor Dr. Stevens, and it is also nice just to see smiling faces coming together as part of our community again. So, can I be the first to congratulate Dr. Stevens? I think I can.
Which one?
Yeah, which one?
Just pick one, I don't care. And that's really all that I'm going to say now. I'm not going to take up more of your precious time listening to myself talk. We have John for that. So, you all have a nice evening. Thank you for coming.
Tonight might set a Turley Award record for the most doctors in the room. Richard Stevens tonight joins a long list of individuals and groups who have made our community a better place. Your commitment to campus and community has set the pattern for those who have carried the presidential torch since your retirement. Rich, you'll probably remember a TV show from years ago called This Is Your Life, and tonight we celebrate your life, one that is very worthy of celebration. We have four speakers who will share their own perspective on what makes this year's Turley Award winner such a dandy fellow. At this time, we invite Dr. Brian Hartley, Chief Academic Officer, Greenville University, to the microphone.
Thank you, John. When Elaine called me yesterday to ask if I would be willing to bring a few words, I was still on Alaska time, and my mind was a little foggy, but I did not hesitate when I was told that I would have an opportunity to say a few words about my longtime friend and mentor, Dr. W. Richard Stevens. I first met Rich 46 years ago, in the fall of 1975, when I arrived from Oklahoma City to be a student at Greenville College. He then was in the role that I currently serve in, that is Dean of Faculty and Chief Academic Officer. In 1977, I was elected to be the student body president, and at that point, Dr. Herron, the president, had decided to escape north, and I found myself seated as the student representative on the Presidential Search Committee, and that committee wound up choosing Dr. Stevens as the next president of Greenville College, Greenville University. Dr. Stevens was kind enough to come during my sojourn in Toronto and address our congregation there on the theme of faith and learning. And in 1993, as he was preparing to retire, alongside another of my colleagues, Dr. Vanessa Brown, Rich signed my contract and her contract, the last two contracts he signed as president. So as I thought about what to say tonight, and there are so many things, particularly if you start talking about Rich's connection to the college and the university, I thought if I start in, pretty soon I'll be talking as long as Rich Stevens would speak. So, in lieu of that, I decided, I sent him a letter back in December of 2011 as he was preparing to celebrate his 80th birthday. So if you're paying attention to the dates, that means that we're not that far away from Rich's 90th birthday. Quite an accomplishment. So it was a private letter, and it does contain a bit of humor in it, but I thought rather than try to talk a lot about the university and Rich, I would just share with you publicly what I shared with Rich privately. Dear Rich, I hardly know where to start in writing this letter. I heard Warren Buffett interviewed last Sunday on 60 Minutes, and he referred to Bill Gates as something of a third son. Maybe I'm being a bit presumptuous, but in many ways, I often thought of you and Arlene as something of parental figures at my home away from home, Greenville College. From the time early on that your wife, Arlene, laughed and called me a fellow Okie, to that memorable chapel where I was privileged to introduce you as our new president in 1977-78, I've somehow felt that our paths have been inextricably linked together by a force greater than the grit of the Dust Bowl. I don't have any easy answers to why God allows certain people to come into one's life, but I do know from experience that we are deeply shaped by people with whom we rub shoulders over the course of a lifetime. When I think about what binds us together, I think about two loyalties and one personality characteristic: a love of both Greenville College and the Free Methodist Church, and a professorial bent towards the firm belief in the importance of history, or what my older daughter simply calls being an idiosyncratic, bombastic iconoclast, or my wife calls being full of hot air. For when you raise that index finger of your right hand, everybody recognize this? Right? When you raise that index finger of your right hand and lean into us, we know that we have not only met our match, but I know that I'm probably looking into a mirror. Your soul is a mixture of Ashburn mud, Indiana sandstone, and Panther pride. And it took a red-headed firebrand who had learned to match wits with her daddy Bob Greer to keep you on the straight and narrow. So don't ever forget that you should always give the good Lord thanks for his providential care in giving you a good woman who could not only love you passionately, but give you a good swift kick in the pants when you occasionally got too big for it. Today, Darlene and I join with Rick, Kendall, and Kelly and their respective spouses and children in wishing you a blessed 80th birthday, and I look forward soon to that 90th birthday. And on this important day, as we reflect back on your life, you can especially be proud of the job that you've done, not only in your professional career, but in your role as husband and father as well. For each of your children has attempted to live out your life lessons by giving back to the college and to the church through resources of both time and treasure. But in addition, there are literally thousands of GC, now GU alums around the world who came of age under your guidance and leadership as coach, professor, dean, and president. And today we join your family and rise up to call you blessed. Now, in closing, if Arlene were here, she would be leaning over at about this point in time and whispering into your ear, "Rich, don't let it go to your head." So before I get too carried away, I'll attempt to avoid being overly pompous and simply say that we're keeping the pew warm for you at church. Don't eat too much cake, but do exert all in your power to spoil the grandkids. Don't get too close to any magnets with those hips of yours. And follow Kendall's instructions and consume at least 200% of the daily recommended intake of fiber. If you follow this advice, we look forward to celebrating your 90th birthday. Fly fishing in some cold stream in the mountains. See you soon back at the ranch. Dear friend Rich, congratulations on this award.
Thank you, Brian. Our next speaker is Dr. Tom Doughty, who will share some reflections on his work with Rich Stevens over the years on behalf of our elderly population. It wasn't meant to be a joke. Maybe that was the funniest line I'll have all night. It was not a joke. Speaking of elderly population, here's Tom.
Tom, do you need a visual aid?
I was not warned that I would be personally attacked.
meeting. I've had the pleasure of knowing Rich and family for a long time. Our going to church together, of course, various times at GU, our kids being friends, our friends with Garrett and Andrew, even going back a long ways, family for a long time, and we really appreciated that. But in the last 15 years or so, I think I've gotten to know a little bit more and understand a little bit more about Rich. We've served together in various roles on the board and in committees at Age Smart, which is our area agency on aging for us old folks, Rich was there because of his expertise. I was just a token old guy for the board. But that's how it worked out. And we had Age Smart is the agency that provides much of the grant money for senior citizen centers, such as our Long County Senior Citizen Center, the communal dining program, Meals on Wheels programs, a lot of other support systems for older people in the community. And Rich and I would often ride back and forth together to these meetings. And at these meetings, I saw right away that Rich understood a lot about organizational structure and functions and organizational leadership and decision making. He was always a strong proponent for Greenville and for Vine County. But I gotta tell you, sometimes he drove me nuts at those meetings. A topic would come up and Rich would start asking questions. And his first question, I would think, oh, come on, Rich. Everybody here knows the answer to that question. And if they don't know it, they ought to know the answer to it. So what are you doing that for? I was thinking that to myself. I was much too polite to say that to him. But then, some discussion would start. And then Rich would be asking more questions. And he would just keep going and asking questions. Don't try to deny this. You know it's true, Rich. And but before long, I kind of had an aha moment come to me, because what I saw happening in that room with Rich asking his questions is that everybody at those tables, everybody in that room started talking. They started coming up with their own ideas. They started coming up with their own questions that needed to be answered. And before long, there'd be a consensus in that room with ideas, good ideas, that I suspect Rich wanted to go all along, but he never really said that. But he was very skilled at drawing people together and having people form their own ideas, form a consensus, rather than just standing up in the room and saying, I think we ought to do this, or I think we ought to do that. We all thought those ideas were our own. We didn't know it. We didn't realize for a while those were really Rich's ideas. But that was a great skill. And I learned a lot. I really learned a lot from that. He taught people and demonstrated critical thinking. He helped people develop logical and compassionate consensus in dealing with problems, and he really was helping to train leaders on that board when on those boards when he would be present and speaking. But it was really probably on our drives over to Belleville or O'Fallon and coming back that I really got to know more about Rich and really kind of understand how he operates. We would talk on those rides, on those drives about family. We talk about Greenville University and the city of Greenville and Bond County and all kinds of things. But at other times, we really had some rich conversations about life. Now, since none of you just responded to that, I will tell you what my 11-year-old grandson would say right now. Rich conversations. Get it? Get it? Come on. Excuse me, did I ask you? We did have some great conversations, and one of the things that I remember from those conversations that came up many times was a quote that Rich had, and I tried to look up exactly where that quote came from, and what I found was similar quotes that came from Gandhi and Dostoevsky and Winston Churchill and a bunch of other people laid claim to the quote or similar quotes to it. And I don't really know who originated the quote, but I heard the quote from Rich, and I'm sure it was paraphrased somewhat. So I'm going to paraphrase it, and I'm just going to attribute this quote to Rich Stevens. He often mentioned to me that the true measure of a society can be found not in how it treats its outstanding members, but rather in how it treats its most vulnerable citizens. I've heard you say that many times, Rich, and I've seen that as a recurring theme in your leadership and in your instructions to other people. How we care for, support, and provide opportunity for the more vulnerable folks is a big deal, regardless of whether they're vulnerable because of age, because of sex, economic status, cultural conditions, legal status, educational status, health, or social background. I just see the concern for that issue of keeping an eye open and caring for the more vulnerable people in our population as a consistent issue that always involved Rich's decisions in many different situations. In my life, I've been fortunate. I've had a lot of opportunities for growth and learning. I've had a lot of great teachers, whether in classrooms or in medical facilities, at church, on boards, and in many other places. Well, there are a few of these teachers, a few of these mentors that I would consider have really reached golden apple caliber. I mean, they're really good at what they do. And frankly, these leaders sometimes frustrate me because they will not give me a clear-cut, concise, direct answer for what I want to know. They're making me think, and that's hard. But that's how you really learn. And they're the ones that really teach the most. And Rich, you are one of those uniquely qualified leaders and teachers, combining your promotion of careful analysis, critical thinking about problems, and strong decision making with your compassion for people and your obedience to God. Thank you for your service in mentoring me, in mentoring our community and our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. One of the most overused lines by MCs is, "Our next speaker needs no introduction." For our next speaker, however, that is very true. If you don't know Ish Smith, you've probably been in the fallout shelter since the Cold War, because I think all of us know Ish Smith. Join me in welcoming the 2007 recipient of the Gerald Turley Award, Robert Ish Smith.
Thank you, John. First of all, I want to commend those who selected Rich for this award. And I have felt for a number of years, finding this guy's name on our list. You know, he's done so much more than me and so many others, but we got you here now, Rich, and it's going to be fun to roast your top or whatever. My friendship with Rich goes back to 1952. Sorry, Brian, you were far away. In Dallas, Texas, when his brother Charles married my sister Javine. And since that time, God has had an unusual way of keeping the two of us connected almost always. And it's been a pleasure to do that. Do the math, that's 70-year friendship. I ain't bad, folks. For two old guys like us. And we're still doing it with our old grips. There are many things that came to my mind about my relationship with Rich. During the years, these 70 years, probably about 20 of those, we were working together. He might have been the dean of the college, professor in education, me coaching, whatever. But, and then about the next 20 years, 18 to be exact, he was my boss. And I want to make some references to that in just a minute. And in the last 10 or 15, we were members of the infamous Old Rips Club, which, if you had your eyes open, you would see, or if you look around the room, you would see if like me, if you needed help coming in, yeah, they're one of our guys. But I've been honored to have these relationships. In some ways, I was at Greenville College because of Rich and Harvey. In 1960, I was at Taylor University, very happy in what I was doing. But I knew there was one place, if invited, I'd leave Taylor as much as I loved it. In 1960, we were in Winona Lake, Indiana for a general conference, and Rich came charging up to me out in front of the Billy Sunday Tabernacle, saying, Ish, I put out the fleece and you're supposed to come to Greenville. And I said, Rich, can I put out my own fleece? Well, when I went back and talked to the administration at Taylor, I couldn't feel free to leave. It was in late July, and there were some reasons why I just felt it would not have been fair. So with great pain, I told Dr. Long and John Straw and Rich Stevens, sorry, I can't come. The phone rang about a day later, and it was Rich. And Rich said, Ish, I was going to WashU to work on my doctorate, and I have the fellowship, but I've talked to them, and they're willing to hold it for a year. If you would come next year, if I stayed and just taught again, would that work? And a moment, I said yes. And so, Rich, for better or for worse, I'm here to a great degree because of you, and I'm grateful for that. Twice, Rich has changed my path in my life. In 1961, I just referred to what happened, and I followed him as baseball coach and as professor in the phys ed department. In 1993, I followed him again in the role of presidency. Both times I could give you examples of how he and Arlene went overboard in making sure that I knew that they were fully behind me and for helping me in the jobs to which I was assigned. And Richard, I'm thankful for that. Probably as much I don't know about this guy because we have spent more hours together than we could ever. But I'm going to just refer to 2 or 3 things I do know about it. First of all, I would tell you that Kelly, wherever she is over here, wouldn't be here if it weren't for Joanna and Chuck, my father. No, it's my father, Chuck. Yes. But the reason being, when Rich went out to the hospital to see this little girl, when she was first born, he went home and said to his wife, Arlene, we need a girl. I don't know how he did it. He's good. Well, yes. I'll have Dr. Stevens explain that. Kendall Stevens. But it did happen, and Kelly, we are so glad it did happen. Because you've been a blessing to so many. 2 or 3 just serious observations. First of all, in working with Rich, I saw an inverted workshop. He did not put himself at the top and our cabinet or others down. He would come over to my office most Monday mornings. He would say, let's get your staff and go for coffee. And then he would say, how can I help you accomplish what you need to accomplish, which was raising money. And so we would give him assignments. We'd say, if during this next week or whatever, you would visit, you would call, you whatever, and he was faithful in doing that. but his leadership style made me, and I think all members of his cabinet, want to pitch in and do all we could to help see Greenville College, at that time Greenville University, go forward. You know from the pictures, you know, if you know Rich at all, you know he's an avid fly fisherman. Even with his skills in fly fishing, it was not only for his enjoyment, but it was how do we advance Greenville College with my fly fishing skills. And he discovered that he could take donors and others out fly fishing and get them on board to help support. So, in a sense, he was always thinking about our community and how he could advance it. His love for leading, as he calls it, and that family over there is as much as it could be with anyone. But I'll tell you, there's a grandson coming to Greenville College this next year that's going to make Rich forget a number of these people because he is all in for that young man and has already made a golfer and a fisherman and I don't know what else. But he is going to thoroughly enjoy that, and so I don't know if I can get my page turned. Thank you. This is Ann Richardson. For some of you who remember Dr. Glenn Richardson, Mary, Rich was at a a while back, honoring for Ann's husband, and she called and said, I got to be there if Rich is being honored. So all the way from Columbia, Missouri, driving today, Ann Richardson, we welcome you back. Now for my notes. I guess this can be last. Rich does not know how to say no. About 10 years ago, Rich and I were asked to raise some money, or help raise some money, and we both agreed at that time, we'll do it one more time. But we've done our deal, we'll turn it over to somebody else. A year later, Richard said, well, let's just do one more issue. Let's just do one more. Well, that has happened time and time again. So one of the lessons that he needs to learn, even at this old age, is 90, is say no. So you're not going to have fun. We are kissing cousins. The Smiths and the Stevens always felt like there was some attachment that we had, and I'm blessed with that relationship. Stevens family, I love you guys, and I'm thankful that you let us love your dad. Blessings, Rich.
Thank you, Rick. I had a chance this morning to go through some of the many nomination letters that were received for Rich Stevens, and one of the things that was in there, something I had almost forgot about, and a lot of people don't know that Rich Stevens is responsible for one of the great moments in television history. Now, according to the nomination letter, you had some involvement in bringing the Today Show and Willard Scott to the campus. And I was there that morning. I was working at WGEL at the time, and we were broadcasting live. It was a big deal. Willard Scott, the Today Show, they're broadcasting live on the campus. And I will forever remember this precious television moment when Willard Scott interviewed our dear friend Watson Tidball. And at the conclusion of that interview, Willard Scott looked into the camera and said on national television, every town needs a Tidball. One of the great moments in television history, thanks to you. Our next speaker has known Richard Stevens a long time. Of our speakers, he's the only one who can say, I've known him since I was in diapers. Let's welcome back to Greenville, Dr. Rick Stevens.
Just so you know, I'll be back up here in a little bit later because my dad wrote his own self-congratulatory piece for the presentation. Well, I don't know that it's self-congratulatory, but I'll keep it brief. for your all benefit. Just a couple of things. We know Dad wouldn't have been who he was without Mom. Lainey, Arlene, Babins. She made Dad who he was. And this is as much about her as it is about Mom. And I just needed to call that attention to her. Much has been said about Dad being a leader in education. I'd like to give you an example of his educational practice. You've seen a picture up there about a 1966 Dodge Polaris station wagon. We didn't really have anything like that until his brothers got us out of the 1954 Chevy that we had that didn't necessarily work, the old Bel Air version of the Chevy. We also had a 1949 Studebaker that just didn't go very far either. Remember those? They were just tanks. But his brothers decided that he needed to be able to get out and about, and so they bought a station wagon for him, and we started taking family vacations. And part of our family vacation was to drive down to Wichita to see Gale, his older brother, and then track across southern Kansas to Mineola near Dodge City to see his younger brother, Charles. Now, anybody who's gone across southern Kansas or northern Oklahoma, we dipped down into Enid to see the Greers. There's not much to see there. The game was to guess how far it was to the next silos that you could see, just eons away. My brother and I would get a little antsy in the back seat of the car on occasion. And this is where his educational philosophy was put into practice one time. He pulled the car over. He didn't say anything. He just pulled the car over, turned around, looked at Kendall and me, and said, "Get out." What? This is on a highway. Now, just imagine if this was being done today out here on Interstate 70 somewhere. Just get out. And he takes off. Drives down the highway a little ways, and my brother and I are running, And of course, I was faster than Kendall, but that wasn't saying much. And we get right up to the edge of the car and reach for the handle, and guess what? He took off again. And he did that at least 2 or 3 times, and I'm sure Mom was giving him advice while he was doing all of this. But by the time, the 3rd time had come around, we managed to get into the car, and we were then quiet until we got to Mineola. So he experimented, I guess, on us as he was developing his theories of education. And while I didn't always appreciate the lessons, we nonetheless got them. And I would say that for most of our lives, having been associated with Greenville and Greenville College and higher education, that we were always just kind of embedded in that. I knew the names of Alfred North Whitehead, since I was 7 or 8 years of age, and talking about philosophy, and Eugene Lee Debs, and all of these folks of history and philosophy. But the other thing that was really significant, I would say, in Dad's life and in the life of this community, because Dad doesn't happen by himself. I already said he wouldn't have done it without Mom. He doesn't do it without you. And he doesn't do it without this particular milieu of Greenville College. Having been away now for 20 years, you begin to kind of understand something about the reach of this little place. And then what it means to care for that when you're in a position of responsibility, as he was as president for 17 or 18 years, to care for the mission, to put it first and to put people first, and then to connect and reconnect. I tell you, I never saw anybody but Dad, Ish, and John Straw who could remember a name. I could call them up at any time and say, "Hey, do you remember so-and-so from sometime?" "Oh yeah, here's who it is." And they would pick it up and they would tell you something about them. So just a little anecdote about the reach of this place. It's not so much about Dad, it's not about me, but it's about the reach and the significance that I feel in this room with you all together right now. So I'm retired. I quit. I quit 2 years ago. I bounced back into an interim position for a little while, and then I quit again as of May. So my big decisions are to watch ESPN or ESPN2, you know, or to take the truck or the Subaru down to the ice cream shop. Those are my big decisions of the day right now. But back in 2012, I was interviewing for a position in upstate New York at an institution that was both public and private. A real interesting hybrid institution. And it meant that I had to go down to New York City and I had to interview 2 times with the State University of New York Board of Trustees. And so I'm there on the second interview, and my name is second on the agenda, and it's supposed to be kind of pro forma. They said, Rick, just get up, tell them a little bit about yourself, they'll all vote you in, and you can head back to upstate New York. Number 1 on the agenda was a retiring trustee who was the primary supporter of the 2-year schools. Now you'll see how this links. He decided at that point, after having served on the trustees for about 20 years within the SUNY system, to kind of air his grievances. And so for about a half an hour, a very uncomfortable atmosphere developed during that Board of Trustees meeting, as he kind of called people out for their mistreatment of the 2-year schools within the system. Now, if you don't know, the SUNY system is the largest in the United States of all state systems, 64 campuses. It's just huge. And I was responsible for a tiny little piece of that, about 1,000 students worth. And I'm sitting there trying to figure out what to do now as this very uncomfortable kind of drama develops within there. And it didn't feel right to just get up and say, hi, I'm Rick Stevens, thanks for the job, and bye. Which, I was told 10 minutes. So I'm sitting there, and I'm looking around the room, and there's pictures on the wall. Now, some of you are going to recognize the name that I'm going to give you in just a minute, because up on the wall is a picture of a Greenville alum. Does anybody know who it might be? Ernie Boyer. Ernie Boyer, the founding chancellor of the SUNY system that went around and developed all of this process that was going on there. And I get an idea. And so I get up and I say, well, you don't know me, but I know something about you, and I know something about the development of your system. And I said, you all know, some of you know personally, and some of you know of Ernest Boyer. And they all nodded their heads. I said, what you may not know is that he started out college in a little 2-year school in Pennsylvania called Messiah College, before it became a 4-year institution. And I said he had a little challenge with transfer credit, as happens between 2- and 4-year schools all the time, and it was just the topic of conversation or the grievance aired by the one trustee. And so I said, he went way out west to find a little school that would accept his credits in transfer. And I said it was called Greenville College at the time. And I said, I want you to know that Ernest Boyer and I are fellow alums of Greenville College. And that at Greenville College, there was a plan called the K Plan, the Kaskaskia Community College, Greenville College Plan. And I said, if you look on my transcript, you will find associated with about a dozen courses the letter K on my transcript. And because I was a student of the Kaskaskia Greenville College plan at the time. So I said, the schools can work together if you want to find a way. And sitting in the audience was the president of Corning Community College, Corning and Glass, if you know that. And the school where I was going, Alfred University, is responsible for 300 alumni at Corning glass scientists, ceramic engineers, etc. And I said, we've already agreed and had in place a program where we have 25 students earning bachelor's degrees in teacher education between Alfred University and Corning Community College. And the president there stood up and acknowledged that. These moments you all have had, you've bumped into Greenville College, all kinds of places, but it doesn't happen accidentally. One of Dad's favorite phrases was the intentional college. That's what it has been here. That's what I'm going to say we are, because I still feel a part of the community that's here. And the best way I can think of to continue honoring Dad is to make sure that we don't lose that as we go forward, that we preserve it and don't just allow it to happen, but we intend to make it happen over and over and over again. That way we have an impact that just goes far beyond the bounds of this place in ways that are just unimaginable. Thanks for your time.
Before we officially welcome Rich Stevens to the ranks of the Gerald Turley Memorial Award recipients, we'd like to acknowledge any previous recipients who may be here. But first, a couple of interesting bits of trivia about this award. The first Turley Award winner was Frank Watson in 1994. The first woman to receive the award was Sandy Lloyd in 2000. There have been two groups that have won the award, the Hospital Auxiliary in 1999 and the Greenville Bicentennial Board in 2016. As you look at your program at the list of recipients, each name will likely bring a smile to your face and evoke memories of something that they have contributed to Greenville. So at this time, we ask all former Turley Award recipients in the audience to please stand and be honored. We'd like to get a group photo at the end of the evening of those of us who are Turley Award recipients, and so I'll do a reminder when we're done this evening. I don't believe there are any members of the Turley family here this evening. Is that correct? I don't think that I saw anybody. Okay. The Chamber would also like to thank the corporate sponsors who made this evening possible: Bond County Realtors, Bradford National Bank, Carlisle Construction Materials, Intertech Global, Ascendant, the F&B Community Bank, Midland States Bank, People's State Bank, Strategic Financial Services, and Weston Company, LLC. Well, a round of applause for all those sponsors. We appreciate their support. And also thanks to the Chamber's Selection Committee, David Harnicher, Amrish Patel, and Dave Willey. And thanks to Chamber Director Elaine McNamara for coordinating tonight's event. And now to make the Gerald Turley Memorial Award presentation, we welcome back our Chamber President, Noel Harnicher.
Dr. Richard Stevens, would you please be so kind as to come up? Thank you for your service to our community.
Now for what he wrote about himself. I insisted he stand up here. I am deeply honored to have been named the Turley Award recipient for 2020. Mayor Turley was a forward-looking leader. He saw what was needed to advance the city of Greenville and exercised the leadership to get it done. I thank the committee members who selected me for this civic award, and I thank my family who paid the price of having Dad gone for so much of their growing up days on behalf of the greater college. And special thanks should go to my dear wife, Amy, for whom both Mom and Dad to my kids during those years in the 70s and 80s. I am thankful for the opportunity that I've had to serve on the first park board with our chairman, Bill Davidson, as we were able to follow the lead of the voters in building the swimming pool in town. I'm thankful for Presidents Long and Herron for giving me the opportunity to join the faculty and the administration of my alma mater, and thus to take up residence here in the town of Greenville. The town has a spirit of cooperation to get things done and make progress. I'm thankful that my family was raised in that spirit. Then in 1977, the Greenville College Board of Trustees gave me the wonderful opportunity to serve as president of Greenville College and join hands with many of you in working to advance our city and county. During those years, we were able to see a number of additions to our college campus, including the completion of the Snyder Hall of Science, the Arlington Center, where we had the honor of having many of you as our guests, the Crum Health and Recreation Center, the Sport Training Annex, and the Irving L. Young addition to the E. Dare Library. This spirit has consistently expressed through city managers Harold Palmer, Larry Stover, and David Willey, which permitted the approval by the Planning Commission and the City Council, and ultimately the surge that resulted in the growth of the Greenville College campus. It was a joy to be part of that team. I thank the citizens for voting to become part of the Kaskaskia Community College District, and for giving Greenville College the privilege of having students completing coursework for the Associates in Arts degree. This plan enabled many students to save hours of travel, time, and dollars by taking advantage of this program. Finally, I thank God for permitting me the privilege of serving Greenville, whose motto is, "With arms wide open."
One of the effects of aging is not being able to speak. And I find it hard to speak. Once I was giving lectures, walking all around the classroom, and yeah, sorry, but I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Godspeed, and God bless Greenville, Illinois.
Congratulations and welcome to the club. It's not like the Masters. We don't have a green jacket for you, unfortunately. Welcome to the club. Reminder that in 2 weeks, we'll be at the Family Vine to honor our 2021 Turley Award recipients, Steve and Karen Smith. Hope to see you then. A reminder that we would like to get a group photo of our Turley Award recipients that are here tonight, and we'll let our photographers direct us where we want to do that. In conclusion, thank you for attending. Thank you for honoring this great man this evening, and again, have a wonderful evening. Thanks again.
Would you guys want this in the picture? Yeah, I think that's good. back here.
Past recipients, if you'll make your way up to the front, please.